Hi, I'm Shashank and welcome to Indian Coffee Stories. Today we're going to talk about the Blue Tokai sampler pack. It's got 5 coffees, 75 grams each, and it is a wonderful value. If you just came here to find out if you should buy the Blue Tokai sampler pack, yes, you absolutely should, and you can stop watching the video. But if you want to find out why it's good value, then please keep watching. Okay, so without further ado, I'm Shashank. This is Indian Coffee Stories. This is stories about coffee and stories over coffee. And today we are reviewing the Blue Tokai sampler pack and why I think it's great value. But in order to explain why it is great value, I first need to explain something about coffee. So growing up, most of us in India, including me, for that matter, just had Nescafé or brew or one of these coffees, the Dalgona coffee, which I found out the name during the pandemic. We used to make that all the time at home, add a bunch of sugar and coffee and a small amount of water, and Feti Hui coffee is something that my mom used to love making, especially on like a Saturday night or a Sunday morning, on like a rainy day, sort of like what's happening outside as I shoot this. And it was wonderful. I really enjoyed growing up. Really enjoyed it growing up. And my idea of coffee was that it's the same flavor every time. I never actually thought a lot about coffee, but I remember watching. I've spoken about this in another video, but I was in New York. I was very sick, and I think I had COVID, and I was watching a James Hoffmann video describing different kinds of coffee, light roasts, medium roasts, dark roasts, and I was riveted. I was like, wow, this is amazing. I had no idea that this common everyday thing, that I never really thought about, wasn't ever curious about, there was so much variety. So, once I started getting into the hobby, I started noticing a few things. There's Nescafe Red, and then there's Nescafe Gold for the more discerning coffee drinkers. It's a little bit better quality, I guess. Then you have Davidoff for the really fancy people, and I think it's much better coffee. But all instant coffee is essentially pre-brewed coffee, and this is not something that people tell you. Pre-brewed coffee essentially means that they have already dissolved. They've taken the whole beans of coffee, crushed them according to whatever their taste profile is, whatever their master taster or master roaster's taste profile is, mixed it with water, so essentially made coffee, then used a sublimation process to extract all the water out of it, and what is left behind are coffee granules, which are shaped a certain way for aesthetic purposes, and that's what is instant coffee. There's a video by James Hoffmann that I will link here explaining what instant coffee is, because I think he does a much what job than what I just did. But basically what you're drinking every time is pre-made coffee that you're just adding water to. Think of it like a grape that has been turned into a raisin, and when you add water it kind of becomes a grape again, but not really. And that's what instant coffee really is. It's kind of coffee, but it's not really coffee. So when you enter the actual coffee hobby, you quickly realize that you can brew coffee to whatever taste profile you want it to be, which means that you can get coffee as a light roast, as a medium roast, as a dark roast, and each type of roast, I'm going to make another video about that, but each type of roast has its own flavor profile. So for instance, lighter roasts generally would be more fruity because they have been roasted for a shorter amount of time. They're sort of brown, but like kind of between they haven't lost a lot of their moisture, so they already have a lot of that fruitiness or acidity that the raw beans had. Medium roasts have been roasted just a little bit more, so they've lost a little bit more water, they've lost a little bit of that juiciness, that fruitiness, that acidity, so they're kind of in the middle, that's why medium roast. And then there's dark roast, which is this sort of the oily coffee beans that we've usually seen, especially at Starbucks. If you've seen, there are some Starbucks which display the coffee, and it is like roasted a lot, right? So almost like a lot of that water, the moisture inside the coffee bean has been lost. So what is left is a more bitter, more familiar profile that a lot of us, associate with coffee. So what does the Blue Tokai sample pack do that is important for someone new to the hobby? Well, it introduces you to different flavor profiles all in one go. They give you a light roast, a medium dark roast, a dark roast. So basically they try to give you a sample of the entire spectrum of coffee. When you brew that particular coffee, you are going to taste the difference in the coffee itself. So for instance, you're going to find out whether you like medium roast, whether you like light roast, or whether you like dark roast. So how should you brew once you actually buy the Blue Tokai sampler pack? Well, with any any field where you have to select what you like, you should do an A/B or an ABC test. So for instance, even in design, you should be looking at a couple of designs together so that you know which one of the designs you like. And in fact, what that live A/B comparison or ABC comparison does is it also gives you points to talk about, like what is it that you like about A versus B versus C. When you buy the Blue Tokai sampler pack, you might have a tendency to just brew one coffee at one time, then open another bag, and then open another bag, and that is something that I was initially doing. But what I quickly realized is that in order to truly utilize this sampler pack, I need to open all of the bags at the same time and then brew at least 2 coffees together. So if I'm extracting espresso, I should be extracting 2 cups of espresso. If I'm extracting a pour over, I should be extracting 2 pour overs together. And you might be like, oh, that's wastage. I don't need 2 cups of coffee. Use a lower dose, use lower ratios, but definitely, brew 2 together, because that's when you'll really understand what you actually like. For instance, you might not really like light roasts for espresso, but when you brew a dark roasted and a light roasted coffee for pour over, you might quickly see the difference in them. I would say once you brew, let's say, a light roast or a medium high roast or a dark roast together, you'll find quickly what you gravitate to. So how should you brew? As a beginner, I would say if you don't have a lot of equipment or don't have a grinder, just when you order from Blue Tokai, just get the grind size you would ideally use. So they also do chalni, they also do, they do everything. So they'll give you coffee ground to the size you require. For a long time, I used to order ground coffee for AeroPress. The problem with that is, of course, the coffee stales very quickly, so you lose the flavor. Investing in a grinder is obviously the way to go, and I would highly recommend the Time More C2, the C2S, the C3. There's another grinder, the Q Air is excellent. The Kin grinder P2 as well is an excellent option. I think there's more coming out on the cheap side. I would say just drink the coffee the way you can make it and make it together. That's the most important thing. If there's anything from the long rant that you can take away, make A and B roasts together. You will find it wonderful, and you'll quickly gravitate to your preference, and you can then start ordering coffee accordingly. So to summarize, if you are looking to buy Blue Tokai's 5-in-1 sampler pack, please absolutely do, but understand what it is for. It's for people who want to discover what their palate is. I think it's now priced at about 1,000 rupees for 5 coffees. So 225 grams, 75 grams each, which seems like a lot. But if you do the thing that I just talked about, which is do an A/B comparison when you brew coffee, so brew at least 2 coffees together, you'll quickly find out what kind of flavor profile and what kind of roast profile you gravitate to. and you can then start ordering coffee accordingly. You can then start looking for coffee from other roasters. Thank you for listening to me. If you've heard this far, please like and subscribe. It really helps. It's a channel that's growing, and I want to continue making such videos. This is Indian Coffee Stories. Thank you for watching.